Welcome back to Terrifying 10. It's your host, M. Today's video is going to leave your brain struggling to comprehend why these people did what they did. It might just be the dumbest criminals video we've ever done. From a man accidentally calling the cops and still going through with his plan, to the most bizarre hiding spot for an illegal substance, I am proud to introduce you to 10 more of the world's dumbest criminals. Alrighty, bring in the lineup. When going into the business of selling illegal drugs, it's important to know what you should do and what you should not do under any circumstances. One example of what not to do: don't call someone on the phone and offer to sell them drugs. That's called a narco no-no. And if you forget that because of some catastrophic head injury you've recently suffered, at least remember that if you call someone to sell them illegal drugs and the person replies that you've got the wrong number, do not offer to sell that person drugs. Which is exactly what a teenage boy in Florida didn't remember when his wrong number connected him purely by chance to a police officer whom he promptly attempted to sell drugs to. The police officer, to his credit, said sure instead of laughing for 40 seconds. And shortly thereafter set up what was probably the world's easiest sting. Thanks to the never-ending onslaught of police procedural shows, everyone has a pretty good understanding of the basics of forensic evidence. Wear gloves, clean shoes, hats. There's no excuse anymore for conducting a crime that leaves behind evidence that can be tracked to you. Which brings us to Trevor Jones. While robbing a house in 2011, Trevor parked his car in the driveway. He went inside to get a robin. The legitimate resident of the home returned around then to find a strange car in the driveway and her door open, and perhaps wisely chose not to step inside. Instead, she looked inside the strange car and took the keys and the wallet that were just sitting out in the open. Because, can't hold that one, Robin. Then she took off, taking with her all the evidence. When Trevor returned to his car with the stolen goods and realized his keys and wallet were missing, he did not give up. He so furiously did not give up, in fact, that his next move was to sprint straight into a nearby pond because he is an awesome criminal. On the other side of the pond, he broke into another house where he logged into Facebook because who even cares anymore? And yes, when he sprinted out of the home, leaving behind puddles and a Trevor Jones-shaped stain on the couch, he of course forgot to log out of his Facebook. Of course. This story is so close to being heartwarming. This isn't a crime of intent. This man wanted to do a nice thing, to go get a sprig of mistletoe to decorate his house for the holidays. And although cynicism rules the day on the internet, we should generally applaud and celebrate people who do nice things. Except when they do those nice things with shotguns. We should applaud because nice. But it is also our duty to mock these people. Like Bill, who used a shotgun to shoot a sprig of mistletoe down from a tree in a mall parking lot. This attracted the attention of local police, who we like to think had to scour their police code book for quite a while to come up with the right way to call it in. In Bill's defense, he was kind of doing this off to the side of the mall parking lot. And the thing was loaded with birdshot, which isn't going to do a ton of damage if missed. And he didn't miss. He got that darn tree on the first try. In his offense, he fired a shotgun in a mall parking lot. That was kind of enough for the courts, it turns out. Reconnaissance is an important part of the criminal process. The importance of preparations is made clear by examples of criminals who were a bit less organized in their planning. Like the case of this future Moriarty, who attempted to burglarize a Taekwondo studio, with a Taekwondo master inside of it, who was practicing Taekwondo, interestingly enough, and instead of being prepared for this, like with a platoon of ninjas at his back, or even a couple of smoke bombs, or hapless criminal, set his plan into motion armed only with his frail neck. A weapon that the previously discussed Taekwondo master easily neutralized with his previously discussed master of Taekwondo. One last big score is a common trope. for crime movies. A criminal who's tired of the game but knows no other way of life. He has no appetite to make it on his own in the real, honest world, and so he pulls one last job with a payoff big enough to set himself up for life. So he doesn't have to become like a fish or a salesman or whatever people do in real world. Which brings us to Charles, whose last big score was also apparently his first clumsy score. One bright spring day, Charles decided to walk into his local bank and attempt to cash a check for $360 billion. The bank curiously suspected something was up and called police, but that's not even the interesting part. The interesting part is what was going through this guy's head when he walked into that bank. Did he think this bank had $360 billion in cash or even on hand? Did he really understand how much money that actually was? But of course, the answer is that nothing was going through his head when he tried this. By even daring to consider this stunt, our man Charles demonstrated a pretty horrendous lack of understanding about checks, banking, and also possibly how zeros work. Wouldn't it be nice for burglars if they could just break in, take all the money, and that's that? For one man from California, this was the case. The problem was with the money he had stolen. Security camera footage from a California YMCA shows a burglar break into a playroom through a ceiling and steal all the money from, wait for it, the toy cash register. The man somehow found his way into the ventilation system and then found his way into the playroom. If I entered a playroom, saw a toy cash register, my first instinct would be to think that money is probably fake. But not for this guy. He took all the worthless play money from the plastic toy register and called it a day. Oh, how I would have loved to be a fly on the wall when he used all that money to purchase something. Or, even better, when he tried to show it off to all his friends. Could you imagine coming home from a long day, just wanting to relax, maybe take a dip in your pool? You go out to that pool and find a strange woman skinny dipping in your pool, and to top it off, she won't get out. For some, it's a dream come true. For one Florida man, it was his own nightmare. When he got home from his doctor's appointment, he got a surprise and an eyeful when he discovered a woman skinny dipping in his pool. Clothes strewn on his veranda led the unidentified man to 42-year-old Heather. After Heather refused to get out of the pool and leave, the man called police. When officers arrived, she became hostile, authorities said. After police asked her several times, Heather finally got out of the pool and put her clothes on. Once dressed, the officers tried to detain her, but surprise, she resisted. She was eventually brought into jail, and after some mugshots were taken, she was ID'd. Turns out this wasn't her first arrest. Shocking. Early morning one Saturday, Patreon, 26, was pulled over on the highway for speeding. The deputy who pulled him over said that he could smell marijuana coming from inside the vehicle. After searching the vehicle, deputies found 197 grams of M, rock coke, and 4 grams of H. A scale was also found in the car. Patreon also had a small amount of marijuana on his person and a large amount of money. He was charged with a plethora of things and taken into the county jail. Officials say that when they arrived at the jail, the money Patreon had on him appeared to be missing. Patreon claims the officers already confiscated it. When they were going through the process of booking him into jail, it came time for a search. This was going to be an easy one, because all of the hidden items, the $1,090 that was missing, Patreon had apparently shoved up his bum, and his bum no longer wanted it there, because officers reported observing $20 bills falling from his buttocks area. This brings a whole new meaning to the saying, crack money. If you're driving down the road, dragging behind you a stolen safe, probably a great idea not to pass an officer. That is, however, exactly what one North Carolina man did. Ryan, 22, is accused of breaking into a pharmacy and tying a rope to a 100-pound safe, attaching it to the rear bumper of his car and dragging it down the street. During his getaway, an officer spotted Ryan's car with safe in tow and began following him. Dashcam footage showed the safe swaying side to side as the car speeds down the road. When I pulled over on the scene, I was like, "You have got to be kidding me," Officer Dwayne told the news. Ryan is now facing many charges, and I'm personally hoping that him and Patreon meet up someday and plan the world's worst heist. With my sincerest apologies to Marie Antoinette, let them snort cake. The Maine Drug Enforcement Agency seized 4 pounds of coke, worth $200,000 from a New York man and a Maine woman. This drug was mixed with coffee grounds to look like a marble cake in an attempt to mask the scent from canine units. John, who had the nickname Papers, was being investigated by the agency based on a tip that he was transporting considerable amounts of coke into Maine with Chelsea. Authorities pulled over their car and found 1 cake and a lot of cash. Good thing none of them tried to eat that cake. They would have had one heck of a day. If the 2 are convicted, due to previous convictions, they will be facing up to 30 years in prison. I hope you enjoyed World's Dumbest Criminals. I feel like they're getting stupider each time. How about you? Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Have you smashed that like button yet? See you guys next time. And don't forget, stay smart, Troop TT.